feel like we're all getting forced to rent for an eternity to an overrated price. Record. Nice. Today I would like to tell you a bit about another setback in our farm search that we had earlier this week. So I thought if we go a bit through some details of what kind of property we were looking at and the condition of all the houses and the land that was attached to the property, then you may get a bit of a better insight into how crazy the property market here in Norway actually is, and how hard it is for younger people without that big of a budget to find anything. This video will be much more detailed than the general farm updates, and we're going through the full sales brochure together so that you get a full taste of what it would be being in the housing market, maybe finding a cabin or a farm in Norway. And I hope that it will be helpful for some of you. Well, maybe it's good to start with what we are actually searching, and that is a property which has a good amount of land attached to it, somewhere I would say between 40 minimum and let's say 500 acres. I know that sounds very much for most of you, especially people that are not from countries with a huge landmass and low numbers of inhabitants, but it's not that much out of the boundaries if you look at the Norwegian market. So we have to wish for a good bit of land, which is in the best case either situated somewhere on the beginning of a mountain so that the property reaches a bit up the mountain and you have pretty much direct access from the house up to more untouched nature. Or it could be at the seaside where you then have a bit more grounds to grow crops and probably also some woodlands. The main point here is that we're really searching a somewhat secluded house, which could be used to host people in the long run that also would like to reconnect a bit with nature. In terms of budget, we are hanging somewhere between 1.2 and 1.6 million Norwegian crowns, which, let's just divide it by 10 into dollars, is somewhere between $120,000 and $160,000 that we could spend on a property where there maybe has to be put in another 100,000 in renovation over the next 10 years. Now, about 2 weeks ago, we found one of these properties. It was having a lot of land, 450 acres of forest and just a little bit of farmland, and it was also reasonably priced. The starting point was $89,000, and for the first time in a very long while, we felt like we maybe could have a chance to actually get our hands onto it. The same day as the property came on the market, which is mainly a site called finn.no in Norway, where houses are listed, we called the real estate agent and asked if we could even get to have a look at the property before the official viewing, which is planned for today when I'm making this video. And he agreed to that. The ad came up on Wednesday and we were at the unofficial showing on Sunday to just have a look around the property if it would be fitting us well. And yeah, it did. Pretty much everything on that house is broken. It looks pretty nice in the sales ad, but looks very different if you're there in real life. There are 3 buildings on the property. One living house, a old barn and somewhat of a shed with a sleeping space in the top. All 3 buildings are close to be complete trash. The roof of the main house is broken and it still has asbestos in it, so you need to get professionals to remove it. And due to the fact that it was broken for now quite a while, the frame that's holding up the roof got quite wet and moldy, and it probably has to be replaced as well. Apart from that, the drainage around the fundament of the house also has to be redone, as the basement is wet and there is a height difference of about 30 centimeters between the highest and the lowest ceiling of the rooms in the first floor. The only bathroom in the house was a bit of a ruin, and all the windows and door frames also have to be replaced. Let me just check in the report if there is actually more broken stuff that I just forgot to mention. Yeah, I forgot some things. The pipes in the house also have to be redone, and the staircases were pretty much not existent. So I think then we should... Oh no, sorry, I forgot the chimney. The foundation, the fireproof stones around the chimney going up were also to be replaced. And then I think we're good with the main house. Yeah, the barn roof was, I think, also asbestos, and it was broken, as well as one of the sides of the barn was pretty much completely rotten away. And that would also require all new material to probably rebuild every part of the barn. The ramp to go into it was gone, and the shed that I spoke about earlier was pretty much not usable as well. The roof was also broken. Yeah, I think you hear my points. Everything in terms of buildings on that property was rather worthless. Except that there was a well, and the pump for the well was pretty new, so water wouldn't be a problem. We estimated that it would take around 100 to 150,000 US dollars to redo all of that. And that already includes most of the things done by ourselves. In Norway, things are pretty expensive, and only getting rid of the asbestos roof of the main house, then redoing the frame for it and redoing the actual roof tiles with the drainage pipes. I mean, that you can do yourself, but that will already cost probably around $50,000 to $60,000, if not more. So yeah, I'm not a roofer, so we probably would have to get that done by a company. Anyways, the price was justified considering how much money you would have to spend into it, and we contacted our bank to get financial approval to actually be able to make a bid in the bidding round. Just as a quick insert, in Norway it kind of works like that you have an ad of a realtor put out on a platform called fin.no in most cases, where then you can download all the sales papers of the property and directly sign up for the visiting, and through your birth number or your citizen number you can sign up for the bidding process. So in pretty much every case there are several people interested in the property, so there is pretty much always a bidding round. And in that case, once you're signed up, you can make your bids via SMS, as it is confirmed with your bank and your citizen number. Fast forward a bit, there were quite a few people already at the unofficial visiting, and we were afraid that it might go maybe 200,000-300,000 above the asking price, because there was quite some interest. And then we let it rest. There were 11 days or even more days between the unofficial showing, the official showing, and the actual bidding round at the 7th of February, which is 2 days from now. In that time, you think a lot about what you could do with the property and finally having your own place to work on, and your mind starts spinning, imagining all the potential outcomes. Yeah, you get kind of acquainted with the thought of, in future, owning that place. Especially as we, for the first time in a year or so, had an okay chance to give at least an offer. Now, 2 days ago, there was a bid coming in, and that went straight from 90,000 US dollars up to 150,000 US dollars. Yeah, people do have money here, and they are willing to pay high prices that are much over the value of the actual property. Speaking about that, that's the point that is making us hard for our generation to actually buy anything, because let's say we went through university and are now like active on the labor market, maybe self-employed for 2-3 years, so there isn't that much capital, and the generation a bit above, they have maybe bought a house earlier, which has then over the years developed dramatically in worth, and there's just much more equity and much more potential for further loans, which makes it a very injustice fight for us to buy anything somewhere around the actual value of the property. The demand compared to the offer is just way too high, and there's always somebody that would give a little bit more. This market right now seems very imbalanced, all the way from cabin properties to smaller farms. Things are over proportionally expensive, and if you don't want to get yourself into a mortgage that weighs you down for the rest of your life, it seems nearly impossible to get anything. So if anybody of you considers moving to Norway or living in Norway and then find a property on their own without a huge capital to be able to outbid pretty much everyone with a lot of spare money, then I think you are up for a tough search. Well, I just wanted to share this to prepare everybody that is having the same kind of dreams or aspirations, that it is not that simple, and there are more setbacks than there are successes. Yeah, I feel like we're all getting forced to rent for an eternity to an overrated price. But one day that will change. I'm 100% sure.